Well, hi there, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Real Estate Investing. I'm your host, Sharon Vornholt, and I'm so happy you're tuning in today. And today I want to talk about how real estate investors can find off-market properties in 2023. And at the end of this episode, I'll tell you how you can get a copy of both my probate letter, a sample probate letter, and a letter for absentee owners, which works very well. So first of all, what is an off-market property? Well, an off-market property is obviously a property that is not listed on the MLS. Now, when you think about it, the bulk of retail properties will be listed on the MLS, and there's a lot of competition on there. So I also want to talk about what's in it for the seller. Why wouldn't they list their property on the MLS where there are so many pairs of eyes on the property? Why would they choose to keep the property off market when they know they're probably going to take a discount? Well, number one would be privacy. People often don't want other folks walking through their home. They want their personal belongings to stay personal, and they're uncomfortable with the whole idea of people walking through their homes. So they'll choose to see if they can get an offer that matches their needs. Now, they're mindful of the fact that they can take a little bit less. Even if they're not super motivated, they know that they can save an agent's commission. Now, that may or may not be a good deal for an investor, but that's one reason. Another reason also has to do with privacy, and that is if they are a landlord. Now, in the case of single-family homes, they don't want their tenant to know that they're selling the property. So they will generally sell it off market, very often to another investor. The same thing is true for multifamily properties. They definitely don't want their tenants getting wind of the fact that they want to sell that off-market property. So they will do just about anything to keep that from happening because it affects the value of their property if their tenants start moving out. So those are a couple reasons there, but there are also some other reasons. There are some unique situations like probates where they're going to sell the property one of two ways, certainly. They're either going to list it or sell it off market. And if it is a distressed property, they are rarely going to list that property on the MLS. They don't want to deal with all the things that come with listing that property. Now, even though they say we're not going to do any repairs, it's an as-is deal, people inevitably ask for repairs and updates on these properties. So that's another reason. Now, going back to why they would choose to sell this way, there are time and circumstances problems like job transfers, financial difficulties, and certainly things, like I said, probates and other things where the house may be going to foreclosure. So it's a time and circumstances issue where, for whatever reason, they have decided not to sell the traditional way and sell the property on the MLS. So to be clear, these are not properties that have expired on the MLS. People mistakenly think that these are off-market deals, and technically, those properties are off-market, but that's not what we're talking about when we're talking about off-market deals. Now, there are so many benefits when it comes to working with off-market properties, but I want to go through just a few of them. And number one, and this one is huge, there is so much less competition. Now, think about it for a minute. If you are in any city in the U.S., you have a property listed on the MLS, you have thousands of agents looking at that property, that single property, and that doesn't count the investors and other people like investor type people that are looking at the same property. So there's a huge amount of competition for every single property. So with off-market deals, you have people that are just working off-market deals typically. Another really big thing, and this is the one that I personally found success with other than less competition, and that is that you get to talk directly to the seller. Now, think about this for just a moment. If you are working property on the MLS, you're going to be going through agents and brokers. And there's nothing bad about that. We'll talk about working with agents in a minute. However, I have found success with talking directly to the seller. You can have a simple conversation with them and you can find out what it is that they need. They need money. They want money for the property, but that's very often not their sole motivation. When you work directly with the seller, you often get a good deal, not always, but you can often get a really good deal if you can help them move on from whatever problem they are experiencing. But this one is also really big. When you work with a seller, it allows you to do terms deals. So what are terms deals? That would be a deal where possibly the seller finances the seller financing on the property. Maybe they will agree to holding, carrying back a mortgage on the property for 6 months or so while you rehab the property. Other cases, they might be agreeable to taking back a second mortgage on the down payment. Let's say that you're working with the bank and they will loan you 80% of what you need, or 75%, or whatever it is. You then have to come up with a down payment of 20 or 25%. Oftentimes you can get the seller to do a carryback of that amount of money in the form of a second mortgage. Do the banks care? It's been my experience that they don't care because they're in first position. So while they like it if you have some skin in the game, it's not always 100% required that you have to have money in the deal. You can also do things like lease options. That's a very viable strategy for getting in a property, leasing it with the option to buy it at a later date. This often allows you to give the seller closer to their full asking price. And it's great for you because you don't have to go get a loan on the property. So these are some of the ways that makes it very attractive to you. And it gives the seller, like I said, the seller can take back part of the money in the form of a loan for a short period of time and often get closer to their asking price. Another thing that you can do is that is a benefit to the seller is you can meet their special needs, such as they might need more time to move. They might need some sort of a concession when it comes to how long they get to stay in the property, which isn't always possible in a situation where the property is listed on the MLS. That's in part due to the way things play out and the mortgages and the timelines that go along with that. But you have a lot more flexibility with off-market deals. You can get very creative, and often these folks are very agreeable to some of the things you suggest. Not always, but very often they will be. So how do you find off-market properties? Again, there are a lot of ways to find off-market properties, but here are some of my favorites. And this is hands down my favorite way, and that is through direct mail marketing. When you do direct mail marketing, you have to decide who is the person you're going to target. Are they pre-foreclosures? Are they absentee owners? Are they probates? Maybe they have code violations. Now, in many cases, you can find a list online for free. In many areas, probates are online. They're not online here to the degree that they are in most places, but you can purchase a list through companies like Open Letter Marketing. You can purchase a list through ListSource or many other places, PropStream. There are a large variety of list brokers where you can simply buy a list, nail down your criteria. What do you want in terms of equity and bedrooms and things like that? So you can use direct mail marketing and you can get very specific about who you want to target. Now, my second favorite way is through networking. Think about it for a minute at your local RIA, your real estate investors meeting. There are going to be wholesalers there, buy and hold landlords, rehabbers. There will be other investors that buy and sell within that group. They do that all the time for a variety of reasons, but it's a great place to find property. Now, remember that it's not so much who you know as who knows you. So you need to get active within the group, and you need to make sure these folks know who you are, so that if they have a property to sell, they'll think about you. And it's a good thing to mention that they will always, or they will a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times, they will provide seller financing. So there are many advantages to buying property, selling property within this network of people. But get out there and network and get known. Find out who these folks are that have the properties, and they'll always be doing things. At my RIA meeting, they have a point in the meeting where you can go up and do a property pitch. If you have a property to sell, you can tell everybody in the group, those hundreds of investors, about the property. And oftentimes, they'll also, you can say, I'm looking for a property in this area, or I'm looking for a 4-bedroom in this area, whatever it is. But you got to go up there and tell people at the microphone what it is you have for sale or what you would like to buy. So that's number 2. Number 3 is auctions. Now, here the foreclosure auction, they refer to it as the commissioner's sale, the sheriff's sale. It's called different things in different places, but this is a place where you can bid on properties that are going to foreclosure. Now, you might be wondering, are they always sold during this process? And the answer is no. Sometimes the bank cannot get the amount of money they want out of the property, and they end up taking the property back. Then those properties become REOs. So there will be another opportunity to buy those properties down the road. There are a little bit different rules surrounding that, and that's totally a topic for another show. But the point of it is that you know how this works, and that this is another opportunity. On the HUD website, you can buy properties off the HUD website. Now, number 5 would be real estate agents and brokers. They are a wealth of information. They know about areas. They know comps very often, little tiny pockets of comps, and they very often have pocket listings. Those are properties that have not yet been listed on the MLS. Most agents that I know that work with investors have one or more investors in their pocket that they call when they have a pocket listing. Let's say they are typically selling A-class properties, or maybe A's and B's. If they get a property that is a distressed property, they don't really want to fool with it. They don't want to put a lot of time and their money for advertising into marketing this property. So they will simply dial up one of the investors that they know and say, I have this listing. I haven't yet listed it on the MLS yet. Would you be interested in taking a look at it? It's a very short time frame, but you can find a lot of good deals like that if you can become that agent's friend. So real estate agents, you should always network with these folks, because it's a trade-off. It's a give and take. You can help them in certain ways, and they can help you in certain ways. Now, number 6 would be to check out estate sales. When someone has passed away, they often have a big estate sale and sell all of the belongings. What happens after they do that oftentimes is they sell the property. Now, this gives you an opportunity to get a look at the property and see, ask who's ever there, are you going to be selling this property? Oftentimes they'll say yes. There are people that hit estate sales every single weekend. Now, it's important to do this when they're brand new, and then circle back, maybe get the information and talk to these folks. But you can pick up some good properties doing this. And like I said, there are people that this is a major strategy for them, partly because they like going to estate sales and seeing all the stuff. So that is number 6. Number 7, you're familiar with, I'm sure, driving for dollars. And this involves just driving through areas, maybe an area that you want to farm, that you want to own rental property in, or an area where you would like to purchase property for rehab. So the gist of it is, you just don't get in your car and drive around endlessly all day long, but you drive with a plan. Maybe you are going to look at a property and you drive the neighborhood all around there and look for property, or you take a different route home every night. If you have a job, just take a little bit different route home and check out these different areas, and you'll be able to identify a distressed property pretty easily. And then you can pull up, it's a matter of public records. You can pull up the information on the owner, and you can just send a $1 postcard to these folks and say, would you be interested in selling the property? So driving for dollars is a valuable strategy for a lot of folks for getting these properties before they're listed or before something else comes up like a foreclosure. So number 8 would be local websites, as I mentioned, probates, but code violations and other types of property that are listed in your area. Now, in my area, it takes a little bit of digging to find the right website, but you can pull up code violations, and by and large, the bulk of them will be in areas where I would not even consider buying the property. But what you can do is just look down the list and look at the zip codes. Don't even spend time looking at the addresses. Look at the zip codes. And then when you find one that has a zip code that you like, you then real quick go over and look at the property and see what the situation is with that property. Oftentimes, you'll find some crossover between probates and code violations and other types of property as well, pre-foreclosures. They haven't had time to, or they haven't had the money, we'll say. The person that lived in the house was not able to keep the property up for whatever reason. Very often it's a money thing, but it may be that they couldn't physically keep the property up. So before it came to be a probate, they had a lot of code violations, or before it came to go to a foreclosure sale, maybe they were behind on their payments, they were in pre-foreclosure, the house got into disrepair or whatever. But there are tricks to not spending a lot of time, but looking at these properties. And in my area, they're free. And I've heard people tell me in a lot of different areas that these leads are free. So it's a quick and easy way to cherry pick some properties. But there is so much opportunity when it comes to off-market properties. They are some of the most lucrative deals you'll ever do. You get to negotiate with the seller and find out what they really need. And from a branding perspective, a marketing and branding perspective, it gives you the opportunity to just show up, be yourself. And what you're really doing is selling yourself. So don't think of this as being an awkward thing. I like to tell people, think of how you would speak to someone if you were talking to a friend, if you were talking to your cousin. Just have a conversation with them and find out what is it that they need. You might just be surprised truly that it's not always all about the money. I would love to know if you're currently working with off-market properties. So let me know. Send me an email at Sharon@SharonVornholt.com. Let me know your experiences and let me know your challenges. What are your challenges with off-market properties? I've been working with off-market properties since I did my first deal in 25 years ago. So I've got a lot of experience. I've always focused on off-market properties, and they are by far my favorite type of property. Now, I have a couple of freebies for you, like I promised you. I'm going to put a link in the show notes and show you how you can get a copy of my probate letter and my absentee owner letter. You can use, you should always use letters for probates. For absentee owners, you can use postcards and throw in a letter every now and then, so something that's personalized. Or maybe in your market, everyone is using postcards and you want to use a letter. That's a great letter and it works very well. So you can grab those for free, and I'll put the link to those in the show notes. Well, folks, that's it for today. Like I said, shoot me an email and let me know what your challenges are with working with off-market properties. And I will see you same time, same place next week. Bye for now.